Well, hello everybody. I have to say I'm thrilled to be out in the cool weather, in the sunshine, after a month and a half of rain. It's a wonderful thing. Look at that blue sky. It's beautiful. Smells good. It's got that nice autumn smell to it. That's one thing I love about where I live, is just the way it smells. Flowers, trees, leaves, olives, orchards, and the air is fresh. You smell barbecue, cooking, wood smoke. Yeah, pine, eucalyptus. It's nice. It's very olfactory here. Hey, there's my friend. Whoa, what's up? You made it fast.
Yeah.
How come? How far did you go?
The neighbor.
That was fast.
So it took half an hour to get there.
Wow, jeez. Okay, I'm gonna take a ride. So that's Christina. That's Tina taking a walk. And I'm gonna go. I was thinking about the seaside, but I think it's gonna be a little bit foggy still. So I'm gonna head over to the Serra, a little bit of the hills. Turkel. That should be nice. Yeah, so I keep reading about. I don't really pay attention to a lot of the so-called mainstream media about these wars, because I'm a firm believer in fossil capital and how capitalism engenders war, whether it's big or small, low grade or high grade. It's a huge industry, the military-industrial complex. It's a racket, and obviously it requires fossil capitalism to exist at the scale that it exists at now. And so there's going to be a lot of BS. But you can't watch what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank and just turn away and say it's nothing because we're guilty about the Holocaust or something. It's really bad. And it's always interesting to me to see how easily people can be swayed by big lies and propaganda. It's just not really that hard. And people don't pay too much attention to what goes on in the world. I'm not blaming anyone for that, but it's just, So, not much you can do unless you want to become a revolutionary. People talk about eco-fascism. Well, there's fossil fascism, nationalism, and all that kind of thing. And these people are jackbooted fascists. I mean, they worship and romanticize the past and this hyper-masculine desire for conflict and blood. The kind of old school heroism without the complexity and nuance of Greek mythology and epic poetry. Started reading Homer again. New translations come out all the time, and it just gets better and better. Never gets old. I was looking through one book collection I have from about 15 years ago, and some other ones more recent, about 13 years ago, and they're just full of classics, things that I read in high school and then or in my 20s and then revisit from time to time. And it never gets old. You can read Tolstoy again, you can read the Iliad again, Shakespeare, Midsummer Night's Dream, Romeo and Juliet. It's amazing stuff, it really is. But people generally don't pay much attention to things, and they don't think too deeply, so it's all an emotional connection that propagandists make with their audience. And it's very easy to do, you know? Convince people that they've got to kill or be killed, that they've got to kill everyone in a prison camp with 2 million people in it. And it's just something that has to be done. And right-wing reactionaries will tell you that, you know, we shouldn't care. That's the way things go. And if you want things to be peaceful, you let this genocide happen, and at the end of it, it'll be over. It's just beyond me, the kind of thinking, but they have good rationale for it. Good reasons and justifications for their ideas. Yarvin said, just move them all into the Sinai and give them a city, and it'll be done. God. And he has some reasons for it, but it's still ridiculous. And people do want to fight for their homes. And the killing doesn't have to happen. But Fossil Capital, that book, Fossil Capitalism, I'm reading it now, it demands these kinds of conflicts. That's what keeps the capitalism going round and round. It has to be mobile. So, yeah. So I was talking to my friend Mick and wrote something for my blog. Obviously influenced by my reading. And the question was, will AI replace us? And if you want to delve into that in chapters or sections, you can talk about dozens of things. We can't stop the tech because the tech might save us. On the other hand, the tech is potentially dangerous and it's an uncontrolled experiment. We don't know what's going to happen and it could be bad. But we have to throw caution to the wind because super wonderful AGI might figure out how to save us from ourselves, which I think is not going to happen. Because behind AGI is a lot of people whose main concern is profit and all the other passions that we suffer from. So How do you build a wise oracle, peacemaker, AGI, if we're not wise? And to what end? Who decides? So, but the question is, will it replace us? I guess in a small way it has, in the sense that we have new addictions to social media, information. We become data generators for big companies. And as always, as innovation happens, people lose their homes and jobs because they're replaced by machines. And then accelerationists, singularity types, say, well, that's the next, Homo Deus, Yuval Harari, that's the next chapter. We become machines. So little old Boolean T gets his fancy nanotube tech fiber bones and super body, and gets to live 300 years. It has chips in his brain from Elon Busker. And that's it. But as we substitute more and more machinery for people, and we don't understand what people's role is in the world anymore, other than to transform it into a machine, you'll have a lot of sick people in the world, mentally exhausted, bereft, lonely, nihilistic, suffering from a sense of meaninglessness, existential issues. And that's just the writing on the wall as I see it. So, like everything else, AI is dependent on fossil capital. You have to have the big corporations, big governments, big finance, lots of material infrastructure, lots of diesel, oil and gas to build the machine, the data centers, the engines, silicon engines to do the computing. And so the game goes on. And at the end of that, we're literally evaporated off the face of the earth. What comes next, who knows? People do really good work talking about climate issues and the interface between climate and economic theology. And everyone keeps talking about 1.5. We're already 1.5 above the baseline, and we're not going below that, because we're going to keep going up until everyone across the world collaborates in coming up with some ways to take the carbon out. Carbon sequestration, either by whale shit or fake albedos bouncing energy back out into space somehow, or scrubbing the atmosphere of CO2 and putting it into something else. Eco-socialism. As socialists, you have revolutionaries and so on. But you can't have any kind of socialism if you really want to look into it. Or democratic system where people care about the commons and each other and there's kind of a more even distribution of wealth and resources. These kind of people aren't the kind of people that carry AR-15s around and fantasize about murdering everybody. I know the French Revolution and Carlyle, I get it. Your worst nightmare. Oh my God. That's fine and dandy. I get you. But there are other ways to look at it and think about it, and there are other examples in history that contradict that particular perspective. Yeah, it was a nightmare. Stalin was a nightmare. Mao Zedong was a nightmare. Keep these the histories in their context and the characters in their context, and keep ours in our context. We have a lot more tools now to set things right. But people do have to be well educated and more educated, and there has to be incentives in our social system and economic system and culture to say to people that you're going to be really valuable if you can think clearly and carefully, slowly, about all the nuances and complexities in the systems that we run to maintain our global civilization. There's no way around it. But there are going to be a lot of people pushing back. They're pissed off. Nobody's going to take my truck. I'm going to burn coal. You know, and we need to fight China, but we have to make sure that only South Koreans and Japanese and Australians die fighting them. Whatever. Instead of reaching out and trying to understand and respect each other, oh yeah, kumbaya. But it takes that. You have to do that work. That's the more important work than the work of building ever more sophisticated, smart weapons of mass destruction that eventually become AI enhanced. They are already, but even more so until you have an AGI that can decide who your enemy is and who needs to be killed. So for IDF, the idea of a surgical strike is one of our soldiers got kidnapped. There's 400 innocent people around it. There's probably 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or a squad of enemy. So you drop 1,000 bombs, you fly 100 sorties, you wipe the whole place out, kill 250 people, plus the kidnapped soldier, plus your enemy. And you know, it's all good. It's an efficient way of going about it. You got to do what you got to do. It's just business. And of course, all those weapons come from Uncle Sam, the greatest weapons dealer in the history of the universe, as far as we know. So, and then we have to go USA, 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 USA. Aren't we great? As I always say, I really hope that you invested in some mutual funds or fund of funds that had positions in all the feeder companies that feed, you know, McDonnell Douglas and Boeing and Raytheon, all the big military industrial corporations around the world. You know, BASF, there's a lot besides the ones in the States. And Germany's all in on the wars now. It was doing so well. Now people are scared. They're making gardens and collecting water and buying electrical systems, backup systems for their homes since this Ukraine thing kicked off. It's like, okay, we just, you know, suck it up. And we back up Israel and Ukraine to the hilt. And if Austria and Poland and Germany go down the tubes, it doesn't really matter, you know. We're all in with the mob boss, Sam. Well, we will see how that turns out. I'm not making any predictions. But I'll pay attention, and 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, we'll know. And we'll look back and see how prescient we were. And in some ways you're just saying, well, I know how this is going to go, so the band plays on. I'm going to have as much fun as I possibly can in the last few years of my existence. And, you know, I'm not virtue signaling that I'm going to do any good in the world or that I even matter. But what else can you do? You share things that people don't want to hear anyway. And, you know, you watch Max Blumenthal and Chris Hedges talking. Who wants to listen to them? Aaron Maté, you know, the Real News Network. They're just going to tell you things you don't want to hear that go against the mainstream narrative propaganda. And it might make you feel uncomfortable, or there may be some cognitive dissonance that's kind of squirmy and squishy and uncomfortable. So people who do the work because they have a commitment personally to integrity and honesty and truth, not to say that these people get it right all the time. There are things about the pandemic experience, that their positions or beliefs they have that I don't agree with. But in general, they do the work. And if you're a careerist corporate journalist, your work, your actual remit, isn't to do good journalism, it's to keep your job. So you're going to do what the bosses tell you to do, and you kind of have a template to work from. So you know I have a little wiggle room in this template to talk about this, that, or the other thing. I'll go down here because I ain't never done that before. And so you'll kind of see how far you can go before the editorial room and the executives come down and tell you, you're really on the edge here, buddy. You want to keep your job, you better dial it back a bit. So independent journalism for the moment is accessible. We can use AI to help in our research, and the corporations, which have more resources, can use AI to help their research. So it's an arms race between bad actors, criminals, gangs, terrorists, governments, corporations, and people like me and you. Who do you think's gonna win in the deep fake disinformation, misinformation, propaganda wars? Who do you think's gonna win that war? Not me, not you. Independent media for now is helping out a little bit to get a better beat, a better angle on reality. But one day these machines are going to shut down. That's one of the reasons why AI isn't going to replace us. Now, I can't say that after the civilization breaks and there's only 1 billion people left on the planet, if some elites haven't, you know, in their bunker somewhere, you know, have the technology to develop whatever robots they want and so on, to tend to the country club, while the Earth is naturally terraforming itself, bouncing back from the garbage that we heaped upon it in the last couple hundred years. Maybe. Or maybe the reactionaries get to win and we just wind up being right-wing. You know, we have our fiefdoms and our kings and queens, and we have our territories and our pure cultures, and we get to go to war with each other over stuff. How beautiful is that, man? And it's all super exciting because it's so important, and you can be a hero. You can die at 19 or 22, or, you know, like Achilles, they'll write a song about you. These days they just don't do that because there's a new hero born every minute and they're a flash in the pan. You know? Support the troops. This isn't gonna happen. I'm gonna have to go back around. Yeah. So Andy Warhol, everyone's gonna have their 3 minutes of fame or 5 minutes, whatever it was. And now everybody gets to be a hero for 5 minutes on YouTube or whatever it is. You decide to go to Ukraine and make videos about the war, thinking it's all going to be over soon. And you're ground down because you're there year after year after year, just, you know, filming death and destruction, you know, a snuff series for YouTube. Talking about who's right and who's wrong, and there's never any right or wrong. Read Homer. Obviously, I do believe that, you know, this thing going on in Gaza is just wrong. But they have justifications for it. There's plenty of people who think it's the right thing to do. And if you want to, you know, search your soul for the ethics and the moral foundations and reasoning for what is right and wrong, there's always going to be somebody that's going to argue with you. Even though I think that there are some things that we can all agree on, from Sri Lanka to Chile, and you know, kind of go, yeah, that's true. I'll buy into that. Yeah, okay, that's a universal truth. And we're not talking about mathematics and scientific theories and so on. I'm just talking about stuff that people can intuitively and rationally, intellectually and spiritually get their minds and bodies around and say, that's true. And I think, you know, what they're doing to the people in that territory, not country, they're not defending themselves from a country. You want to go in and get the terrorists, you know, pay the price. But they're not doing that. They're making innocent people pay the price. It's just vengeance and anger and hatred. That's all it is. So, you know, you want to be the Delta Force and the Navy SEALs. You want to go in, lose some guys. You know, get your tunnel rats together and go in there and, you know, pay the price. Hey, there's a circus. Look at that. That's nice. I wouldn't mind going to that. Appresenta Magia Fakir. And here are all the mobile homes of the circus folks. Isn't that cool? Got some porta potties. Oh man, I'd love to go to that circus. Oh, here's another little cafe too. Looks very nice. I like it. That's got a very good outdoor spot to hang in. That's nice. União Desportiva. They all have a sports union, all the villages. So that's one of the facilities for Turkel. So yeah, it's just, you know, these people are cowards and idiots. They're not, if they were smart, they'd be working on the big problems. If they had a soul, a heart, but, you know, I think Bibi is just an opportunistic politician who's a bit of a genius that way. And he just doesn't want to go to jail and wants to keep power. You know, if Trump gets reelected, he can get, you know, afterwards he can he could get somebody to pardon him and get off scot-free. And, you know, there may be some arguments that everybody, you know, we can't put him in jail. He's the president. Who jails their president? And I think Trump this time would just say to hell with it. I'm going to break this whole system apart, a la Steve Bannon, and take over. And, you know, he'll probably, he's too stupid to call Curtis Yarvin up and say, why don't you come over and like be the philosopher guy for my administration? Because he's too dumb to get any of that shit. So he'll just bring in a whole bunch of sycophants and yes men and women, and he'll play, he'll have a good time, and he'll get lots of attention, and people worship him, and hopefully they can destroy the whole world before we just burn due to global heating. So the one argument I don't agree with. So we talk about what I said before: AI good, AI not so good, fast AI, slow AI, useful AI, dangerous AI. What I don't think is going to happen, unless there is a clique of really smart elites that have like dug a big cave in Norway or something, and they're just waiting till the end, you know, at the end their children will come out from underground and terraform the earth and rewild everything. And well, whatever accelerationism these guys have is great, you know. But the accelerationists, if they think that, you know, get the tech going ASAP because we're all fucking idiots and we gotta have the tech kill us off anyway because, well, that's not gonna happen exactly the way they think it's gonna happen. But in some ways, that's exactly what's gonna happen, because at some point, the internet's going to turn off for us, but it's going to stay on for a certain elite crew that exists in a safe zone. Things are going to simplify, I think, for us, because there's no reason to believe that we're going to work for any solutions that we need to work towards. We can't cooperate. You know, the United States and China can't work together in good faith to develop a new economy, political economy that could be more sustainable. So that's not going to happen. All the resources, the money, the energy, the talent, the programmers, the engineers, the machinists, the CAD workers, all the people in the military-industrial complex, you know, just doing amazing shit. And we can't get together across cultures around the world and put those resources into something better. Broken record, I get it. But, you know, that is what it is. The whole thing is a broken freaking record. What is this? This is something different. I don't know what it is. 5, 4, 10. He's not counting. It looks like they're getting ready for a big thing. They got a stage here. I'll bet they have some really good festivals and parties at this venue, this location. Geolocate. So what's it say here? Look at all this stuff. Décadas 1920 to 1930 para muestra de aceituna. So this was olive processing works in 1920 to 30. I guess those machines there and presses, wheels, are for making olive oil. Interesting. Very, very interesting. It's always nice just to always take a turn, a different turn, and find something new. You can do that all day. I've been here for years. It never gets old. So here's the bottom. Tasquina y Filhos. That's the little place for the kids. Jubu. Is Jubu a restaurant? What is Jubu? Huh. Simple. You know, you can have all these fancy new materials and stuff for building breathable houses, thermal regulated, and all that kind of stuff. That requires a lot of fossil capital. Or you can just make bricks. I don't think Portugal's ever going to have a problem making bricks. They'll always be able to make bricks. Look at that beautiful sheep and this little doggy. Hi, doggy. He's on a chain. How are you, buddy? Yeah, you gotta bark. That's what you do. Yeah, so accelerationists, yeah, there's a bunch of little guys around the world, just a few, with their little clique in some subreddit somewhere, talking about don't regulate anything, don't slow anything down, just let it all go, because this shit, it's already, you know, human beings, they're useless unless we can make the machines to replace us. Our destiny is done. But as I said in the video with Mick, we both agreed that the machine isn't you. You upload yourself to the cloud, or you're talking to VR grandmama, great grandmama, VR grandmama in 2250, and you're like, wow, she just seems so real. It isn't your grandmama. She doesn't have a vagus nerve. She doesn't have a nervous system. She doesn't have glial cells. She doesn't have gut microbiome. She doesn't have suffering. She doesn't have joy. She doesn't have any of it. Any of this stuff that make us human, she doesn't have it. Not even close. It may look like she does. I put that clip from her. Joaquin Phoenix. There's like 20 countries you can't see my video in. I don't know which countries, but they put a little flag on the thing. I might take it out and put another version, but why? Who cares? So, you know, he's just fallen in love with that operating system. People are like that. The virtual thing is easier. You can control it. I can control my feed. And my feed can make Bulliam T feel better about everything that Bulliam T thinks about. Little Bulliam T validation machine. Obrigado. This place is cool. You can go right, you can go left. It's a nice little area to go. Yeah, a little Boolean T validation machine. Hi, I'm Boolean T, and I can help train your algorithms to change the way you think, feel about life and what you do. I can build your new culture with new algorithms. And you can click the link and sign up now. There's a 75% discount, but it's good only for the next 48 hours. Most people would say, no thank you. Since I got over my heroin addiction and my fentanyl addiction, I have been very happy with my algorithms. Thank you very much. So, that's the thing, man. We don't have to worry about accelerationism because our whole unfettered, financialized, global, capitalist, neoliberal, omnicidal, heat engine, economic, social economic, political system, I got to do that better because that's a mouthful, is accelerationist by nature. It eats up the world, and it eats up people. Even though obviously for a while we needed to have that growth engine of making babies and taking advantage of antibiotics and fertilizers and so on and so forth, nitrogen fixing and all the great stuff, you know, gill nets, industrial agriculture, to get billions of consumers on the planet, so for a while a bunch of us could be wildly rich and so happy. I think about people in the Mad Men days when I was young, and my parents, you know, and their friends all had houses and pools and things, and it was just, you know, how do you be a good Shriner? How do you get into the country club? When can you go golfing during the week? You know, how can you stave off the horror effects of alcoholism in a simple world? And, you know, there wasn't any of this stuff where you think I have to treat women with respect? What's your problem? Wasn't any of that going on. Do you feel me? Where do I want to go? I don't know. Should I actually go to Benedita this way? Why not? Who am I to argue? So, it was just different times. You watch Fred Flintstone, and you watch MASH, and you watch Hogan's Heroes. The Nazis were just so funny. And now it's just a more complex world, you know. With this technology, it's changed everything. And so the AI is just an acceleration of all of that. So you don't have to worry about am I an accelerationist? Of course you are. Especially if you have a good stock portfolio. And I'm not condemning that or criticizing it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's there. And if you can take advantage of it, you should. And if you have any ethical qualms about how to take advantage of it, take that into account. Be a slightly more ethical investor, if you will. I am not giving financial advice. Disclaimer. Invest at your own risk, taking into account your risk tolerance and all of that stuff. Again, click, sign up for the course, 75% discount, 48 hours. Be there, be square. So we're accelerationists by nature. And we're going to find out what happens when you have AI weapons of mass destruction all over the place. You know, maybe quantum computing and AI can help us be more secure. It's possible. But not under this regime, because this regime is all about exploiting natural resources as quickly as possible and convincing people all over the world to have babies again so that you can keep the markets growing. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what energy system you have. It's going to take oil and gas to build the new one, and then once you have the new one, capitalists are going to use it to take even more stuff out of the ground and sell more stuff to more people. And, you know, the whole point of the fossil capitalism is just that, you know, and all these other things, donut economics and the Club of Rome and all that. It's just, you know, we have to just admit that, you know, we're born and then we die, and sometimes horrifically. You know, we have good luck and bad luck. And we don't live on a planet with infinite resources. And we have a real problem with global heating that could destroy our habitat. These are just basic facts. And to move forward in any kind of sustainable way, we have to acknowledge them and respect them, these facts, and say we're going to do something about it. And in order to do that, we need a temporary ceasefire. We need a pause. We need a pause in investments for the military-industrial complex, basically. It's like a moratorium. Everybody says, all right, nobody's putting a fucking dime into the military-industrial complex anywhere around the world. We're gonna stop this shit until we get this big problem sorted out. And then by the time, if we fix some things, if we still want to go back to killing each other, okay, fine. But a few generations down the road, you can imagine after 60 years of peace, people might get kind of comfortable with peace and value peace more, and there may be other kinds of masculinity that work their way through the culture and manifest and express themselves. And this is a good thing, potentially a really good thing, you know, in my humble opinion. Well, I just think that while we have these discussions and debates about science, engineering, and technology, and big pharma, and big this and big that, big government, we're missing the big picture, and that's what I obsess on all the time. It's the forest and the trees kind of thing. The monoculture of eucalyptus versus a complex, diverse forest from top to soil, you know, with all the plants and animals and little micro, you know, life forms that make it all up. You know, a Dyson sphere with a bunch of machines around it. That's fine. Maybe somewhere in the universe that's what we have. A Dyson sphere. Here's another one of these little places with a lot of, you know, machines orbiting it. You know, it's like Blade Runner on steroids. There aren't even any more people. It's just machines. Yeah, paperclip maximizer, sure, whatever. But, you know, that isn't humanity. That isn't being a person. That isn't what we are. Which is fine. I mean, who cares? You're going to enjoy the dance as the Titanic goes down. We all of us get hit bad patches, bad luck, and all of us die. It's just a damn shame that all these children are getting smoked, obliterated, misted. You know, those shells fall down and your whole body turns into a pink mist of flesh and blood and sinew and bone. Meanwhile, they keep making all these outrageous big lies up that are just so crazy. You know, people boiling children alive and all that. And you can go online and see videos that people on the other side proudly take of torturing people and shooting people. I think anybody in the United States, UK, Australia, Germany, if they were bullied and oppressed like that, would fight back. I think most people would have that instinct. I was reading this other book about just that a while back. People are willing to, you push them far enough and they just like, you know, I'm quite fine with dying. Because I hate living with this boot on my back, having to walk through these gated channels to get to work or to go visit a relative, being in fear of having a bunch of criminals come and boot me out of my home, destroy my village, my community. I'm sick of it, God damn it. And then they fight. And I guess the other side thinks that, you know, it's just a matter of time. We'll break them down, you know, and they'll give us an excuse eventually to kill them all, you know. So they'll do something mean like the Twin Towers, and that'll give us the right to shock and awe everybody in the world. You know, we're not going to send our brave heroes, Achilles and Hector, to Tora Bora or Fallujah to smoke out and kill the real bad guys. Because we have all this technology. We have all the resources in the world. We have the most brave and well-trained fighters in the universe. You know, what we're going to do is just bomb them relentlessly, airstrikes forever. And then go in and bulldoze their cities and kill a whole bunch of people. We call it collateral damage. Euphemisms, no truth, no poetry. And then once we've killed everybody, we'll just walk away, leave a failed state that's more violent and more fucked up and more dangerous than it was before we bombed them. This is the truth. This is what happens. And we all just sit back and say it's okay. But then the next financial crisis happens, and you know, so many people in 2008, they never got their homes back. They never bounced back from that. It ruined them forever. And the next one's going to wipe out a whole bunch of other people financially. And eventually the tornado's going to hit your house. And the taxes are going to go up because you can't insure your property in Boca Raton because the sea level's rising and the infrastructure costs a lot to keep ahead of that. And so on and so forth. It ripples through. You know, you go in the old days and you don't put the dime in or the nickel or the dime in to get your newspaper. You just kind of grab it when the other guy buys the newspaper and you steal one. It ripples through. Eventually you got 25 cents for a newspaper. You know, you abuse things so long, eventually it costs all of us. And rich people starve just like poor people. Rich people die just like poor people. Rich people suffer just like poor people. We're all just people. And the whole damn thing's going to catch up to each and every one of us So some of us are lucky. So far today, I haven't been hit by a car. I consider myself lucky. Not too much traffic here, but I always am mindful that, shit happens. Not necessarily in the most disciplined, stoical kind of way, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so when I talk to my friends, there's just so many angles in my head. I'm thinking, oh my God, And then, why don't you write a book? Well, why? Fiction, maybe, but why write a nonfiction book when I consume them like candy? And none of them seem to do any good. Samantha Power wins a Pulitzer Prize for her A Problem from Hell book about genocide, and then she's on the side of the genocide people and when it happens on her watch. Go figure. Well, these are complex geopolitical issues that have to be addressed, and it's just mind-boggling that she can read from the script after writing about Rwanda and Sarajevo. Oh my God, it's just mind-boggling. But again, it's like the journalists. You have a career, a stellar career with awards. You're not going to give that up. It was hard won. And there's a line you can't cross if you want to keep your very fancy, lovely positions with the fancy, lovely people who smell really good and dress really good and are very polite and good conversationalists, and you get to meet in nice rooms and restaurants and have these meaningful, important conversations and make your moves to change the world and save the world. The Davos crowd isn't it isn't a cigar-filled room with conspirators. It's a country club with wealthy people who probably want to do good to keep the system going. So, it's like there's that thing about Roosevelt saving capitalism. Or maybe Xi Jinping saved capitalism. But they want to keep the game going, obviously. It's been very, very good to them. Baseball been very, very good to me. Baseball been very... I love the UFC, man. I love the UFC. Yeah, you work your ass off to become a professional fighter and you make really, really good money if you win. Of course you love it. And these people are just like a UFC fighter. The average career in the NFL is probably 5 years, something like that. Not many Tom Brady's. But, of course you love the NFL. And even if you only have 5 years, it's a lucrative 5 years if you're any good, and it's worth all the work and effort you put in. So these guys, maybe they put in work and effort at Harvard or Princeton or Brown or Cornell or, McGill or wherever. I'm a North American, so wherever. People talk about Chinese Communist Party being corrupt. Really? What about the Congress? What about the Supreme Court? What about... You can do a lot of whataboutisms. There's no moral equivalency, it's different. When we're corrupt for the right reasons. We're corrupt to bring freedom and democracy and civil rights to the people. Yeah, I used to believe that long, long time ago. Jim Croce. But I don't believe that no more. Because these people have all lost the plot and they're just getting dumber and dumber. Maybe it's the plastic pollution in their brains or something. But they're getting dumber and dumber. They're cowards. I want to give them all knives and tell them to go and stand at the head of the column and throw down if they want to go support all these wars. And what can people believe in anymore? That's part of the problem with the meaning crisis and so on. You really think as an 18-year-old you're going to believe in the narrative and go off and fight in Ukraine or wherever. America knows it can't do that anymore, so it's either got to draft people again or let other people fight its wars for them. Proxy wars. Because young folks, they're hip to cannon fodder. They know what it means. And they also have seen video of recent history. All those boys and girls in Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, the Gulf War syndrome and so on. And they're like, I don't know if that's my thing. There may be a better way to get a college education, or maybe a college education isn't even worth it anymore. I mean, I'm going to be machine learned right out of my job. I'm going to be AI'd right out of my position at work. As far as manufacturing goes, I'm going to have my drudgery, my back-breaking, repetitive job, repetitive stress syndrome factory job taken by low-paid Chinese people or robots. Why the fuck should I want to get an education? I'm gonna go to some place in the mountains of Idaho and build a cabin and be a YouTuber. This is how I wash in the lake. This is how I hunt the elk. This is how I preserve the elk so I can eat over the winter. Obviously, it's not that bad. There's still a lot of buildings with a lot of offices, with a lot of people, a lot of clerks, busting the keyboard. You're in Hong Kong or Tokyo. You see all those buildings and all those people, and you're going, what the hell are they all doing for their paycheck? And of course, this economic growth leads to one thing. It just leads to global heating, loss of habitat, and then eventually the most ignoble and painful of deaths, starvation. You want to be a hero. You want to go out and, get in a firefight and get clipped. Oh no, I took 2 through the guts. I'm gonna die because of the infection from the bile. I'm hit. And no thought whatsoever about who you're shooting. At least not in the movies or in the computer games. I'm just shooting people, man. It ain't nothing.